Welcome back to the Impact Storytelling Podcast. I'm your host Sabine Probst, and today I'm joined by Elena Turak, marine conservationist, cetacean researcher, and passionate science communicator. Elena is an Austrian biologist with a Master of Science in Marine Conservation from the University of Oviedo, Spain. Her research centers on marine mammals, particularly innovative, non-invasive methods for studying free-ranging toothed whales. She's been involved in amazing work collecting blow samples from short-finned pilot whales and participating in tagging campaigns for elusive beaked whales in the Canary Islands. Elena recently co-authored a scientific paper on genetic sex determination in pilot whales and continues to explore ways to bridge the field of research, conservation, and impact. Welcome, Elena. I'm glad to have you on the podcast. Can you take us back to the beginning? What first sparked your interest into the ocean and led you toward marine biology?
Hello, thank you for having me. Well, I actually grew up in Austria, so it's a landlocked country, but I'm half Greek, so I spend a lot of time at the sea each summer, actually at least 1 month where we lived directly at the sea. And my dad always took me out snorkeling, so that was actually the first time I fell in love with the sea and all its creatures therein. I always had a big love for water. I was also considering to go into limnology, but the sea always caught me since I'm a little child.
Amazing. And you wrote a thesis on dolphin communication in your early academic career. Did you already know then that cetaceans were the direction your career would go in?
Yes, I mean, of course I didn't know, but it was a dream. So I declared dolphins, actually the bottlenose dolphin, as my favorite animal when I was about 5 years old, I think. And I had a sketchbook, and on the sketchbook there was a bottlenose dolphin on the front cover. And my mom told me that they love children and that they are always smiling, like typical flipper generation sayings. But I was immediately falling in love with this animal, and it kept until nowadays. And I always had this very special interest in marine mammals. I got a CD for Christmas when I was 15 years old of whale songs, and I was listening to whale songs while my colleagues were listening to, I don't know, rock punk music. I was quite good in listening to whale songs, and I knew which whale, which song. So it was kind of obvious that I was choosing this topic for dolphin communication for my thesis, for my graduation thesis of high school. Yes, but I didn't know where it will bring me. So it was just a dream, and I know that I want to go into this direction. But of course, it was a dream, and I know that I want to pursue it. But of course, I didn't know if it will ever happen. Yeah.
Well, definitely an interesting choice of music for a 15-year-old.
There are also other things, of course, too, but this wasn't my playlist.
No, really cool that you had such an early interest into this and now making it your career. And can you tell us a little bit more about dolphins?
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, where to start? It's a family, like actually dolphins belong to the whales. The big overall group are the cetaceans, and cetaceans split up in 2 groups. So you have 2 suborders. You have the baleen whales and the toothed whales. And the dolphins are a family within the toothed whales. So which means, as the name is saying, they have teeth, and dolphins have quite a lot of teeth, and they're the biggest family within the toothed whales. So what makes them the dolphins? What makes them special? They are very intelligent animals. They can solve complex exercises, and they also recognize themselves in the mirror. It was proven with the bottlenose dolphin, I think also with the common dolphin and with the orca, which is a sign of, it's often interpreted as a sign of self-confidence if an organism is able to recognize itself in the mirror. They have highly complicated communication strategies. They use a different high variety of whistles, clicks to communicate with each other. It's known for the bottlenose dolphin also that they have kind of signature calls, so they give themselves kind of names. They know the individual by name, so to say. I mean, names is a bit a humanized expression, but they have like different calls for each individual, so that they know who is who, kind of. And that's actually one of the very fascinating things. Besides of using echolocation, I can say so many things about them. So it's really difficult to narrow it down. But maybe what I want to add is that they're using echolocation for orientating themselves and for hunting, which is amazing because they're sending out high frequency waves, which are reflected by, for example, in fish, which they're hunting on, and the sound is coming back, and they receive it with their jaw. So they're kind of hearing with their jaw. The jaw is filled with a fatty substance, and then it is transferred to the inner ear, and from the inner ear to the brain. So very complex and very amazing.
Sounds like it. Dolphins often swim alongside of boats, but they're using echolocation, and boats make noise. Does that not disturb them? Why do they like to swim with boats?
That's a good question. I'm sure there are contradictory knowledge. There's contradictory knowledge about it, but in general, dolphins are often very curious and social animals, and they also love to play. So boats have this waves when boats are driving. They have these waves, and a lot of dolphins, for example, the common dolphin, it really loves bow riding. So it loves riding on the bow and of the boat. And yes, of course, it disturbs them in their general behavior as a dolphin when they are hunting, when they have their complex interrelationships. But when they're deciding to play with the boat, they just decide, if we can call it decide. You always have to be a bit cautious with using these humanized words, but they take it as a fun part, or they're just curious to see what's up there, or what is this boat about. They're curious. They're absolutely curious.
And what motivated you to pursue a master's in marine conservation?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to be a marine biologist, but life came a bit differently. So I stayed a bit in Austria, and I became a national park ranger and worked as an ornithologist. But the dream of being a marine biologist has never left me. And I already knew that I wanted to work in marine conservation. So it's a very hot topic, and it's very needed today. Of course, it was always needed, but it's nowadays it's even, I think, a hotter topic than it ever was. And so this master just jumped to me, so to say. I've seen it, and I was like, okay, that's it. It's a good combination of biology and conservation, and that's actually the direction I want to go to. So, yeah.
Great. How did your journey into cetacean research begin? Was there a specific project or moment that pulled you in?
Well, I was fighting for it quite hard, to be honest. It was not just falling off the sky that I was into cetacean work. I always knew that I wanna work in cetacean research, and I really worked hard to get it as a master thesis topic, to work in this kind of research. And actually, the start with it was in the laboratory, where there are no cetaceans at all. And I was really stressed and running around with these blow samples. We're coming to it probably later, but little tubes with blow of whales in it. And I was just like really stressed and running around. And it was the start into cetacean work. And I was a bit like, I have imagined this to be different, but that's how it all started, actually. And it was quite stressful because the samples are highly delicate. But still, I was always very happy to remind myself that I have whale blow in my hand. And I knew that I want to do it. It was always clear. And as soon as I was in the field outside, I was happy anyway, because I'm really a field biologist. As soon as you drop me outside, I'm happy.
Yeah, you've worked in various locations, and how have those environments and research stations influenced your approach?
Well, Well, it's actually it has influenced my approach in a way of how to address things. In a sense
Mm-hmm.
of how to go into different situations, because at some places it can be very chaotic and other places it's stricter, but still you always have to acquire enough knowledge to do good work. So I've learned to step back and observe, but at the same time ask a lot of questions to do a good job. And
Mm-hmm.
it needs yourself to be balanced and to to know what you want and what you don't want. And it's very important to reflect on the situations. And at the end of the day, it's pretty good because you can take out of each station where you have worked what you want and what you don't want. So you learn a lot for yourself. You learn to establish your boundaries. You learn what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And it makes you a good autonomous researcher too, because you see different aspects. Things can be handled very differently, and it's very interesting. I think it needs an open mind and a good portion of reflection. Yes. Yeah.
And one of your recent projects involved collecting blow samples from short fin pilot whales, as you just shortly mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a bit more about pilot whales?
Yes. So pilot whales are actually tooth whales. So they are odontocetes. They have teeth, and they are like small tooth whales. They get about 4.5 meters, and they're living in, like, I did the study on short fin pilot whales, so they're living in warmer
Mm-hmm.
temperate waters, the tropical waters. They have close relatives, the long fin pilot whales, which are more in cooler waters. And yeah, they're hunters. They are feeding on fish and squid. And what's quite special is that they're deep divers. So they can dive
Mm-hmm.
quite deep, around 1,000 meters, and hunt there for squid. And then they're coming up again. So they mostly have an alternating pattern of deep dives and shallower dives. And after the deep dives, they have these special phases on the surface where it's called milling or logging. Actually, it's the logging, which is done after deep dives to restore their energy after this deep dives is highly physiologically demanding. It's impressive how these animals can do this. And they need some time on the surface to restore, to decrease the lactate level again, and to increase the oxygen, to do thermoregulation. So they are deep divers, and that's something very, very special. What can I tell you? They are the females that get about around 60 years. They
Mm-hmm.
only give birth to one calf after, like, I think one year of carrying it, and they lactate it up to 3 years. So yeah, they're of course mammals like
One
us.
calf in their life?
No. Every 5 years,
Okay.
one calf around.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you explain how collecting blow samples works and what you are looking for?
Yeah. So cetaceans spend most of their time underwater, so it's difficult
Yeah.
to receive a lot of information about them, especially so-called intrinsic information, which is information about population health, for example, like or stress levels or so on. So with blow sampling, it's a quite new technique, and the cool thing about it is that it's a non-invasive technique. So it doesn't need to, for example, to get genetic material of a whale, you need to shoot an arrow that to get tissue samples. But with blow sampling, you don't have to actively hurt the animal. And yeah, so the cool thing about blow sampling is also that you can gain different kinds of information out of one sample. For example, you can extract hormones, which give you information about, for example, the pregnancy level of an individual. You can say if the female individual is pregnant or
Mm-hmm.
not. You can have stress level, so you can see how stressed the individual is. It's just by taking the hormones. But you can also check the microbiome of the animal, or that's what we did,
Mm-hmm.
and which is quite tough and difficult to extract DNA out of the blow. Because with the blow, you have to imagine when a whale exhales, the warm air, which is in the animal, gets into cooler air. And then therefore you have evaporation and you have little drops. And these little drops are gathered. And in these drops, there are cells of lung surfactants. So this is actually the main source for the DNA. So you have little cells out of the lung, and there is little fragmented DNA in it. And this is the DNA which needs to be extracted. So this was the overall purpose of the study, to develop a non-invasive methodology, to gather information, intrinsic information about the population, to know about the health status of the population, and to set conservation measures in time if you see that the population is not in a good condition. Yeah.
I have a photo that you sent me of you collecting a blow sample, or someone from your team collecting a blow sample. Can you tell us a bit more of how exactly you did that and what kind of pole that is there?
Yeah, so the pole is a carbon pole, so it's lightweighted. You can handle it quite well. It's 5 meters long. And on the end of the carbon pole, there is a Petri dish attached to it. And the Petri dishes are like little plastic dishes, which are also used in the laboratory. Yeah. And it's very important that this whole work is done under sterile conditions. So the Petri dishes are also prepared before we are going out with the boat, closed and sealed in little plastic bags, so that they are really kept in sterile conditions to avoid any cross-contamination. And so the whole work is about spotting animals. So to give you a little insight, first you have to spot the animals. If an animal is spotted, the boat is approaching slowly. And it's also important to say that this whole research work is done under certain permissions of the Spanish ministry. Normally, it's not allowed to approach an animal that close. But for scientific reasons and for conservation research, it's allowed, and we had a special permission to do so. So the boat is approaching to the animal, and the pole operator is standing on the front of the boat, and mostly the crew was observing if the animal is coming up. So they were warning the pole operator, it's coming up. And then as soon as it came up, the pole with the Petri dish was put above the blowhole around 50, 60 centimeters. And then it's just hoping that the animal really exhales, because they all not always do, and not always in the same amount. So the pole, the Petri dish is shown with the face down, is put with the face down to the blowhole. Yeah. And as soon as it exhales, you have the drop splashing on the Petri dish. And then you turn it around again and take it back to the boat, where it's closed and sealed and put into a portable freezer until it gets processed at land further. Yeah, and it's important that the operator wears gloves and a mask, because we are also mammals, so you have to avoid any contamination. Yeah.
And usually they also are traveling in pods, right?
Exactly.
Do you know, are you choosing a specific animal, or are you just, this animal is in a good distance and now that one is coming up, or how did you choose that? Yeah, so it's more about which one is in a good distance, and shows also a good behavior, so to say, a behavior which makes it easier to sample, which is maybe a bit curious, not very shy. So if we are approaching an animal and realizing that it's turning away, then just take the other one. So we also have in the permission, we are only allowed to have 3 attempts. If the third attempt isn't working, we have to break up the whole thing. So only one animal can be sampled. You can try to sample it 3 times. If it's not working, you have to leave it. Yeah. Okay. So if there is a whole pod of 15 of them, you would be only allowed still to do 3 attempts, either on the same animal or on 3 different ones? It refers to one animal. It refers to only one animal. Okay. Yes, one animal, maximum 3 attempts. Yeah. Okay. And then another one is allowed to play a role in science.
Yes, exactly. Another one is allowed to. I mean, one have to say that it's not like I'm seeing this also critical because you have to approach close to the animal, and it also might be stressful. So calling it completely non-invasive is, of course, something you have to think about. But still, it's less invasive than shooting an arrow on an animal. Or I mean, it always depends on the situation and on the species. Maybe there are situations where it's maybe less stressful for the animal when it's a big whale to shoot an arrow or whatever. But it's always better to have more techniques and more non-invasive techniques where you can choose which is the best in your situation. Yeah.
Do they usually stay around the boat for a while, or is it really like that you often only have an attempt with one animal because then they're just all going away?
It's different. It's different. For example, the picture you've just shown, this was a quite weird one as far as I remember, because it was a single male, and normally they are traveling in pods. And this one was traveling alone. So we don't know. It also had some scars, so maybe it got neglected from its pod. But you have this special behavior with short fin pilot whales. I mentioned shortly before, like this logging after deep dives, or also milling. Milling is when they're slowly circling around, having a lot of social interactions. So mostly this behavior is taking a while. And when they are showing, like when they're moving away, you can maybe follow them a short time, but not like follow them longer. If they're going away, they're gone, then it's fine. Yeah.
Are the pods mostly a good mixture of male or female, or are they mostly female? And when they are trying to like repopulate, if there's one pod and they're all family, like are they changing up with other pods, or how does that work?
Yeah, they are mixed. Especially they have juvenile males. The males, when they are at a certain age, I think that they're switching between populations and trying other populations or whatever. But mostly, as far as I have observed it, we had mixed populations of males and females. But it's also difficult to say. This is also an interesting fact that you can visually only distinguish males and females after 9 years. With 9 years, the short fin pilot whales, they reach sexual maturity. And until that, they have more or less the same size. So you can not really say if it's a male or a female visually if they are below the age of 9. So you don't really know the ratio. That's actually to refer it to the blow sampling, the cool thing what you can do when you extract DNA out of the blow, to that you can determine the sex genetically, and it's not visually possible.
Cool. And can you describe the process and the challenges of collecting blow samples from free-ranging pilot whales? How do you prepare for that? How do you know where to go?
Yeah. Well, it depends on in which area you're doing it. For example, there's a resident population of short-fin pilot whales in front of Tenerife. So they are kind of always there in the Canaries. In front of El Hierro, it's a bit different. They're not always there. Sometimes they're there, sometimes not. So before you're going out, first of all, you have to be prepared. You have to prepare your cameras for photo ID. Photo ID is when you take photos of the dorsal fins to match it, maybe to see if you have already seen this animal or not. And to prepare your cameras, to prepare the petri dishes in a sterile way. And that all batteries are charged. So this is how our day starts normally, to check all the equipment and to do this kind of things. And well, then you're going out, and it can be a long day at sea. You can just sometimes travel around with the boat and stare at the sea and look for a blow or a dorsal fin or any splashes or any signs of a cetacean. And in addition to this, in El Hierro, we had a land-based spotting station, which was actually not really because of the pilot whales, to be honest, which it was because of beaked whales. We had 2 studies together. We were also tagging beaked whales. But of course, it is also helpful if you're searching for the pilot whales, because there is on land a group of people. We had 2 binoculars and a very big one, and we are connected with walkie-talkies, and they're scanning the whole sea all the time. And as soon as they see something, they say to the boat, go over there, and so on. So a big amount of the work is just looking for the animals. That's actually the biggest part of the work. And then as soon as you see the animal, then you are approaching it, and then the whole process occurs, which I have described before, with sampling and so on. Exactly.
Do you use drones as well?
We not for blow sampling. That's an interesting question.
But for spotting?
For spotting, no, but for measuring body size. As soon as they occur, as they are coming up. The leading scientist of the study, Patricia Ahrens, she is allowed to fly a drone, and she is flying above the animal to take the measures of the animal, which can reveal also information about how fed they are, if they have enough nutrition, and so on. So that's where drones are used to. So as soon as you have an animal, you're trying to gather as much data as possible, so that you don't have to disturb more often. So you're trying to take photo ID, flow samples, body measures, just everything what comes up is collected.
Yeah. And how far up are you flying the drone in order to not disrupt the animal?
I don't know the meters, to be honest, because mostly in this case I was occupied with taking pictures and so on. When you have to imagine, when an animal is spotted, it's a little boat, but it's like a lot of ants moving very fast, and it's very stressful. So especially if you're not used to it yet, and then it can be very stressful. I can just give an approximate value. I think it might be around 10 meters or 15 meters or even higher. It's not good in neither case, not for the animal, but also not for the drone flyer to fly really shallow above the water. Yeah. Because as soon as there is a wind or something, the drone is caught by the water. So I'm not quite sure, to be honest. Mostly I was occupied with some other work. I haven't observed it that well. Just had to analyze the pictures afterwards to see the pictures. But yeah.
And did you have to have also a certain permit that you even can fly the drones above the animal?
Yeah. You have for all these things you need certain permits. It's not, you cannot just fly above them. But
it's great that there's strict laws about that, so not every tourist can just go there and fly a drone or go close with the boat. It's great that it's only for scientific purposes, and if you see them whilst on a sailboat or something, that's nice, but you cannot go chase them or go to certain places.
Exactly. The problem is that people, maybe they just don't know about it. There are a lot of cool videos on social media where you can see animals close to the boat, and of course people maybe want to get closer and so on, but if the animals don't decide themselves, it's not good, not at all. No. But maybe I want to add something, because you asked for the drones, and it's really, really exciting because normally, we are sampling with the pole, but we are sampling with the pole and the petri dish because they're small whales, like small toothed whales. But for bigger whales, like for the baleen whales, which can be far, far bigger, they're using drones for sampling the flow. And this is not possible for this. I mean, it can be possible, but it's really difficult for small whales. The results are not really good with this. But it's really fascinating because they have petri dishes attached to the drone. So they are flying with the drone above the blowhole, and then they are collecting the little drops like this. But for small whales, it's not that easy because the amount of breath, the amount what they exhale is far lesser. So the drone has to get far deeper. And yeah, of course, it can be disturbing too. Like everything is in a certain way disturbing, but it's related to how fast you are, what kind of drone you use, if you use a more silent or drone or a louder drone, and how good the process is done, so to say. Yes.
Yeah. I can imagine it isn't that easy to fly a drone with a petri dish, and then there all of a sudden comes a lot of wind and water from below.
Exactly. It needs very experienced pilots, and it's also, I remember that it was always really a tension on board when the drone was flying, because the drone it shouldn't fall into the water and everything like this. So it's a big practice necessary to do this. Yes.
Yeah. So you've published on genetic sex determination in pilot whales. What was the most significant part of the research for marine conservation?
Well, so the overall aim was to develop a methodology from blow sampling up to the laboratory and DNA extraction, to show that this is possible and to show that this works. So this is a really absolutely important tool for conservation of marine mammals, because you can gain insight on the population's health, in this sense, on the sex ratio of a population. As I've mentioned, the short fin pilot whales only develop the male biased sexual dimorphism at the age of 9. And it's really important to know such things, because then you can know by time if a population is in a bad status. For example, if you only have one male and hundreds of females around, that's an unstable population, which is probably about to crash. Also the other way around. So it's a very important tool to get insight into the population's health. And it was actually quite amazing that we could show a really good result, a high percentage of a good successful result, because this was actually quite for the first time that this was in this amount able for toothed whales. Maybe there's another study, but it was really, really cool. Yes.
The study reports a 70% success rate with the new method versus 19% with a classical approach. What factors contribute to this significant improvement?
So normally when you do genetical sex determination for your cetaceans, you use like this classical methodology. Now we are getting a bit into genetics, and I'm trying to be really simple that everyone can follow. So for doing the general genetic, like the classical method for genetic sex determination, you use 2 genes. In marine mammals, it's the same as with us humans. Males have an X and epsilon chromosome, while females have 2 X chromosomes. And for the classical approach, you use a part of the epsilon chromosome, a gene of the epsilon chromosome, which is only available for males. And you take another gene, the ZFX, ZF gene, which is available in males and females. So if you're extracting the DNA and you're looking for this distinct gene, in the end, you get like a picture, you visualize it with, it's called the process, it's called gel electrophoresis. It's not that important to know, but you get like a picture of little bands, so to say. If you see 2 bands, it means one band is for the gene which is on the epsilon chromosome, which is only the male one. And the other one is for the ZFX, ZF epsilon chromosome, which is for male and female. So if you have 2 bands, you know, that's a male individual. If you only have 1 band, which means that for the ZFX, ZF epsilon, it means that the SR epsilon, which is the male one, is missing. So this have to be female. So that's the general idea, very broken down. But now we have a little problem. The DNA we are collecting for flow samples is really fragmented, and it's really low amount DNA. So these genes we are looking for have a different length. And the problem is that the ZF epsilon gene, which is occurring in male and female, is quite long. So as the DNA is fragmented, this gene might not be detectable as it is fragmented, and it's shorter and it cannot be be seen. So you cannot make really a statement about the sex. You need to have both or one or like this. But if you only have the SR epsilon and one is missing, it's not sure. So you need both. So what they invented in the new approach, what was invented, is that they found another gene. It's a short tandem repeat, and it's called FCB17, and it's much shorter than the ZF epsilon gene, which made it easier to make it visible. And this worked just so much better because it was just the suitable method for this highly fragmented DNA, just to change it, to find another gene which can be used. Like this is a short tandem repeat. It's repeated base pairs. It's maybe a bit complicated, so it's repeating the same base pair, how to say, chronology, so to say. And so by taking a shorter piece of it, it was possible to make a better statement because it was easier to detect as it's shorter and the DNA is highly fragmented. So you could it could be made visible. So this was the trick about it, and it still has to be repeated to be proved for that it's really working out also on a wider geographic range. But it's a very good start, and in the first experiment it worked out. But of course, in science you have to make things repeatable to make sure that they're really working. So, but this was the clue. To sum it up, just to change one gene and to take a shorter one because it's too long and the DNA is too fragmented that it can be detected. So they changed it to another one. They kept the SR epsilon. The SR epsilon was kept, and they changed the other one, which is occurring in both sexes. And this was the key in this study. Yes.
Cool. Yeah. And what are the next steps in refining this technique or addressing any limitations encountered during the study?
So I think one of the biggest limitations and what was really difficult also in the laboratory is that the amount of DNA was very low, the collected amount of DNA. And so to refine this technique, it would be necessary to find a method how to gather more DNA. This might be to a change of the absorbent material of the Petri dish, maybe that you have a special absorbent material on the Petri dish, which can collect better or absorb the DNA better. This was, for example, done for hormones. They took a nylon membrane, so they could get a bigger amount of the drops of the blow. However, you have to try it for DNA because the problem is for DNA, you need to rinse the drops, to get them out of the Petri dish. We did it with ethanol, and if the surface is too absorbent, it might influence the quality of the DNA when you try to get it down. So further studies should probably find a good absorbent material to increase the amount of DNA which is collected, because this was actually the biggest difficulty in the laboratory. And as well, the study needs to be repeated, also with a higher sample number and in the wider geographical range, and also use it for other species to see how it works with other species. So there is, of course, still, like always in science, still a lot to improve.
Yeah. In your experience, which cetacean species has surprised you the most and why?
Well, this was actually beaked whales in general, but especially the Cuvier beaked whale. The first time I got in touch with this whale was at the Canaries, at El Hierro. Not only getting in touch with it in a physical way, but also in regarding knowledge. I haven't had this big focus on these animals, and they are so exciting. And especially what made them so exciting to me is that they're for a long time not really known because they're deep divers too, like short-finned pilot whales, but in a much wider, broader way. They can go down to 3,000 meters. And they are the record holders in the time they can stand underwater. They can stay underwater for around 4 hours. That was the longest time. Like it's the record. It's not that it's usual, but it's the record. The record they have done. And it was therefore they weren't known for a long time because nobody could see them. They are really shy and they were just diving very deep. So sometimes they found dead animals at the beach, but they've never seen them alive. So I've read once that they called them the ghosts of the sea because they just had the dead animals. And this was in the 1990s. They had mass strandings from of the beaked whales. There were big amounts of Cuvier, and because of it was related to military sonar exercises, and that's when they started to do more research on them. And it's just so fascinating how they're doing it physiologically to go that deep. And it was really awe-inspiring to me when I first saw this body of the Cuvier beaked whale just like coming out of the water like this, and I had in my mind that this animal was that deep and in a completely other world. And I really like the way that they're that shy and secret. Like the secret thing makes really I have a lot of curiosity about them. So they really surprised me, and I haven't had it on my mind. I knew pictures and so on, but I don't know. It really touched me when it came to the surface, and I've seen it with all its stories and a lot of lack of knowledge there. So really, really exciting.
It sounds like an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And how do researchers test how deep they're going? Are they tagging them and then okay.
Yeah, they have with it's suction as like the study I was also a little bit involved with, which was done in addition to the blow sampling. Was tagging the beaked whales with suction cup tagging. So this means that you have suction cups, because there's also another method of tagging where you also shoot something the tag at the animals. The suction cup can stay only shorter, but it's enough, for example, to reveal diving patterns. At the same time they have how is it called? Hydrophones. You can also refer certain sounds you're hearing to certain patterns you can see. So it's a great method.
But the hydrophones are on the suction cup as well, or you just measure? Oh, okay.
No, it's one thing which has a hydrophone integrated. Yeah.
Cool. Has someone ever tried putting a camera with a light on it too? A small camera?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I'd love to see what they are seeing.
I think it cannot work. I don't know. I think it's under these high pressure conditions. I'm not quite sure if this camera. I don't know
if a microphone can work. Well, someone should make a camera work.
I love to talk to people, because sometimes they're just giving me ideas, but I'm quite sure that someone may have tried, or I don't know. To be honest.
Submarines can have cameras that far down, or so. But maybe that's would have to be quite little to hold.
I think it's dark down there, and this light has to be
you need a light.
It needs a very strong light, because it's like dark. I don't know. it's a good idea. I would have to look it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Well, I'd love to see what they're seeing down there.
Oh,
if
me
they see
too.
something.
Absolutely, yes.
So do they see at night?
I mean,
Or like in the dark, because it's really dark.
echolocation.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, normally they have a good sighting, but not the best. So they are using echolocation for orientation. Yeah.
Okay. So not like some animals that just see at night and during the day as well.
No, I mean, I guess they can see. I guess they're adapted, but the better seeing is like seeing with their ears. So yeah, I think they will probably have also good sense to see, but I don't think it's like extra against.
Yeah. Can you share an unusual or fascinating behavior you observed among whales or dolphins?
Yeah, actually, I come back to the beaked whales. Obviously, they just got me. Still, the bottlenose dolphin is my favorite animal, but these animals fascinated me. Yeah, it was actually with this tagging procedure we were just talking about that, because they're known as shy animals, and there were two plain wheel beaked whales. One of them was about to be tagged, and we were out with two boats. I was on the boat for blow sampling. The other boat was the one for tagging. So I was on the blow sampling boat. So I was observing the situation. And beaked whales, like the plain wheel beaked whales, are maybe a bit less shy than others, but still they are. And it was really interesting because the boat was approaching for tagging and they were not shy at all. And it was really fascinating. It was, for me, really touching and fascinating to observe because they were a bit curious, looking up there, seeing what's going to happen, showing kind of a little bit of trust and curiosity. And I haven't expected this at all from a beaked whale, from an animal which I actually just know from the papers and where I always read about this is a shyer animal and difficult to spot, and it was just staying there, and it was really touching to me that it was showing this curiosity. This was actually for me one of the most touching moments. Yeah.
Beautiful. And you have also been involved in organizing citizen science weeks and environmental education. Why is public engagement so important in your field?
Well, I think public engagement is important in nearly in each field. I think it's extremely important that if you're unsatisfied with a situation or if you want to change something, to get involved and to do something about it. Especially in my field, in the field of nature conservation, it has a very important function because on the one hand, it gives people the possibility to get involved in something which is mostly anchored in the heads. Like it's science, it's complicated, it's not makeable for me. But with taking these people into the boat, they can see that it's makeable for them, and they all also develop a connection to the topic. And that's something what is very important to me because you protect what you know and what you love. And by taking people into your boat and showing them this world of these fascinating wonders and creatures, they often develop a love too for it, and they start thinking about it. So they start protecting it because they love it. So they need to get in touch with it. And I think that's something very important for having public engagement in nature conservation. But also, you have a lot of people who are just nature lovers who are going out there, who have their everyday walks at the same route, or who are traveling to the same places every year and go diving. And they know a lot about these places. So there's a lot of knowledge out there. And especially for citizen science, it is important to gather together all this knowledge and to take these people into your boat and tell them, hey, it's really important what you have observed. You can gather more data, and this is important to set the right measures in time. So I think it's a really important tool to get people on board. And maybe what is important too is to give them the impression that they can do something, because we are showered every day with negative news. It's sometimes very depressing. And I think it's very important to show people that they can do something, or that they get involved. Then it's often less bad if you have the impression to be able to get involved in something. And
Yes.
That's why I think it's
definitely
important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone can do something, even it's just something small. If everyone does something small, then it's really a big impact as well. So it's important for people to know that.
Exactly, that's the way it is, and also just by acquiring knowledge and getting awareness, it's so much done if you can connect emotionally or in what way ever to something, and then it gets more important to people.
You've also worked extensively with birds in National Park Neusiedlersee Seewinkel. Are there any parallels between working with birds and marine mammals?
Well, I mean, yes, there are, because both of them are animals. So there is something, there is, you never know what's happening that they have in common for sure. You cannot predict what will expect you that day. In both cases, you probably, with cetaceans, you stare at the sea for hours to spot something. With birds, you stare at the sky for hours to spot something sometimes. So they have some things in common regarding the technique. Maybe in both animals, you use the binoculars and you're trying to spot something. And they're also both migratory animals. Not all of them, of course, but they have migratory species. So you also have to know which animal is at which place at which time, and you have to include this in your planning. So this is also actually a big similarity. It's actually just the way of working can be very similar. One time you go to the water and one day you go to the land, but you're observing, writing down notes, taking time measurements for the cetacean, how long it is underwater, for the birds, how long it is in a certain radius around you. So it's quite similar actually, but just different animals, of course. Yes.
Yeah. Is there one water bird species from the park that you think deserves more public attention?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's so difficult to stick to one species. Lately, a friend was asking me what's my favorite bird, and I sent her a big list back. But I think one species which comes to my mind immediately is the Kentish plover. It's a wader. It's a small bird, and it's actually breeding at coasts. But Austria is a landlocked country, and we also do have a small breeding population here in the national park. And this is because in the national park we have salt ponds. So the kind of the vegetation and the circumstances, the conditions they find here are a bit similar to coasts. So they're breeding here too. But on a global scale, this bird is stable. It has a good population and so on. But on the regional scale, it can suffer very sharp declines. And so it is doing in Austria because the conditions of these salt ponds where they're breeding, they are decreasing, unfortunately. We are working a lot on it to improve. It's currently done, and we're hoping it to get better. But the condition was decreasing for a longer time. It's a complex interrelationship of groundwater use and landscape use. And the Kentish plover is kind of an indicator species. So by when the salt ponds are declining, the population of the Kentish plover is declining too. So at the moment, we have around 6 breeding pairs, or 6 to 10, which is a really small amount, and it might disappear in the next years. And it's we had like 35 breeding pairs, and it's around 40 at the best times. But now it's decreasing, and I think it deserves more attention because it's really a special bird, especially because it's breeding in a country without access to the sea, and its population here is about to disappear. And it's a very cute bird, really small and really fast.
Yeah, it's cool to see also how many different habitats we have here in Austria and how many different ecosystems. I think even a lot of Austrians don't really know that we have a big diversity of nature.
That's true. And when I'm working abroad, everyone thinks that I am just living in the mountains, and I'm actually here working on the flattest part of Austria. So it's exactly the difference, the opposite. But it's hardly known that this kind of habitats are here existing too.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
That's true.
But you are heading to Iceland soon to work on Humpback whale tagging.
Exactly.
What excites you most about that?
Yeah, a lot of things excite me about that, to be honest. But I think what excites me the most is that it's the first time that I'm continuously working with cetaceans for a longer period of time, like that I'm like more or less every day or every second day being out in the field, being close to these animals, observing them, because you can learn the most just by observing animals. And I haven't had that much opportunity yet to be out in the field that much, so I'm really excited about that, to get more experience in observing their behavior, and also especially in expanding my skills, which is always very important to me, to get better and get a better routine in my skills. And of course, humpback whales are amazing. They're amazing animals, and being close to them, contributing to science, to contribute to their conservation excites me a lot, of course. Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like a really great project. I'm excited to hear about it when you're coming back or in between.
I will update you for sure. Yeah, I'm a bit afraid of the cold. Now I got some pictures of Iceland. It's completely snowy. It's covered in snow at the moment, and I'm curious how it will be.
Pack warm clothes.
Yeah,
I've been there. Easter, like 4 years ago, I think now, to film a documentary, and we even slept in vans. So it was like minus 13 degrees sometimes.
Oh, wow.
We were, sleeping in the cars there. That was also a special experience. But Iceland is a really beautiful country.
I can imagine. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited. Yeah.
Yeah. And what challenges do you see ahead in the field of marine conservation, especially for cetaceans? I mean, there are a lot of things going on around the world where they're still being slaughtered, for different, a lot of different issues.
Exactly. That's you're saying it. It's we are in the age of climate change. The prey availability is shifting, currents are changing. So we are in an age which is the Anthropocene. It's shaped by the human. And there is a lot of need to set measures soon. There are, of course, things happening, and measures are set, but we need more, and we need a lot of conservation measures regarding, especially, like, we still have an increasing demography, like increasing population, and we still have politics who think that economic growth is very important, which means that we have also a lot of traffic at the sea. One really A danger for cetaceans is, of course, noise pollution. The sea gets very loud, and they're communicating over far distances. So it's difficult to them to cope with this situation. On the other hand, ship strikes can be a major source of danger for big whales, that they are caught by the ship, and often the ships, they don't realize it at all. So there's a big black number, and I think the challenge is to find a common sense and to set measures as soon as possible. It's difficult because there are many different lobbies involved, and you have, of course, different obstacles. Big lobbies also, fisheries and tourism and this kind of sense. So the most important thing is to find this common sense that we need to do something about the protection and to set measures in time.
Yeah.
And so research is very important in this case, I really have to say, to continue with research, to find a balance, to find what can be done to take this person into the boat, but do it well for cetaceans or other creatures there too. Establishing protected areas, which are also taken care of, like not only paper palaces, as they are often called, because they're on the paper, but nobody really takes care of if all these measures are respected. So there is a couple of things which have to be done, and research is needed, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to other young women who want to enter marine biology or conservation?
First of all, never give up and believe in yourself, because you will have a lot of resistance probably. There will be people who say you won't find a job there, don't do this, don't do that. I've heard all these things, but if you really want to go for it, go for it. And it's not an easy journey. I have not said it, but never give up and always keep your ultimate goal in your mind. I think that was something what really helped me, because you have to go through studies and you have to go through exams which probably don't interest you at all, but never give up and go through it and have your ultimate goal in your mind. Remind yourself that I want to go there and that I'm doing is for coming there, and that you have to go across things even if you don't like them, but it's necessary to reach your aim. And what's also important is trust in yourself and be honest, because especially cetacean research can be a field of high competition, and there are always someone who is trying to put yourself above you, but it's okay. Stay calm, keep calm, trust yourself, and go ahead. And I think these are the 3 points which were important to me and which I can recommend to others. Just like never give up, keep your goals in your mind, keep calm, and go for it. And if it's, what is maybe really important, don't try to pursue your aim obsessively. Because sometimes life can come very differently. It can come super different. You have to change your path, and it's not bad. It's good for a reason, and it will help you to develop you further. But you have to be okay with it, because as soon as you start fighting against it, it gets difficult. Just accept it and keep your goal in your mind, and you will pursue it maybe a bit later again. But keep it in your mind and keep calm. These are the things I can say to young women who want to pursue their career in this kind of field.
Yeah, it sounds like great advice. That was already the last question. Thank you so much for showing us the world of cetaceans and your research. And I'm really excited to hear more about it soon. And I wish you an amazing time in Iceland.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for these nice questions. They made me really think about things. I really appreciated this.